So Gabby, I realized I got a text from one of our mutual associates at about 5 a.m. today that said, Dan, between things, wondering what you are and how you are prepping. That happened at 5 a.m. And quite frankly, I didn't know between three things. Was it the tariffs? Was it Iran, Israel, potentially World War III? Or was it the fact that he's potentially in a job that is completely replicable by AI? I didn't know how to answer him for the first time.
Are you going to share who this associate is?
I will yes, sure.
Tell me again what the text was at 5 a.m. your time.
He gave me a vague, just like, hey, can you give me it was something about, can you give me some ideas of how to prepare? I'm not sure I like how this world is going right now or whatever. So he was vague in that he was generally concerned for his future, and he was not specific about what it was. And I definitely had to do a double take to figure, wait, which one is he potentially referring to? I had a performance check-in with an employee today who works in software development, where I had, it was very clearly at least his first interaction with the potential response of just, hey, reality is we are all working in jobs, including me, on jobs that, in my opinion, I think we undershot it. I think we're all potentially wholly replaceable by AI. I think we're in a different game now where it's not only, yes, you do your job, you need to do your job well. And well now means productivity. It's like, it is average level performance in your role and how fast can you possibly do it. And clearly, after having that conversation where this guy was going, and this is true, I've had other developers tell me the same thing, but they're just like, look, you can't measure the performance of a developer based on the lines of code they write. I actually, to some extent, agree with that. That is true, right? It's like saying, hey, can you tell if a painter's good based on the number of paint strokes on the canvas? It's like, well, nah, not that. That in and of itself doesn't necessarily tell you if someone's good. That being said, you can compare that painter to their own work from 5 months ago. You can compare the number of people that assess their work that have similar performance or the other people that are potentially trying to paint similar works. You can get correlations. You can get other insights that illustrate that we are more interconnected than we've ever been. When we first got into this game, one of the biggest pain points was not whether or not we could actually develop the AI. It's whether or not we could access the data that powered it, right?
Yeah. Yes.
It was only a few years ago, 85% of the project budget just went into data preparation. Then we're getting closer, but we're still very much in a situation where it's actually getting pretty hard, or still is pretty hard, to get AI actually into production situations. But it's there and it's accessible and scary. We were working on that piece, White Collar Hunger Games, where I'm putting it out there that, Anthropic CEO said, this isn't getting enough eyeballs, but AI is probably going to be replacing about 50%, maybe more, of entry-level jobs in the next 5 years. We've hired people.
It's more than that. It's more than that. Because
how so?
It's not just entry-level people, it's also people at the top. Because you're not going to need this cabal of executive leadership to make all of these decisions, strategic decisions, when you have better data to actually help you not only make decisions, but make ones that the collective can feel confident about. And so you need less people in general.
Yeah. And do you remember actually sitting around, that was in 2017, kind of hypothesizing what the future world will look like? And we've flattened the org chart. I remember, look, almost every managerial job is, I'm going to take a bunch of data inputs from all of my direct reports. I'm going to aggregate them. And then I'm going to put them in a bucket of like pass, fail, or next steps, whatever. And then I'm basically going to do that. And I as the local manager, hand that to the regional manager, who effectively does the same thing. He takes a slightly different data set from all of his direct reports, whatever, but aggregates them and then hands them up to the executives who do the same thing. A lot of middle management is making a very predictable prediction data set recommendation from a standard set of data inputs and handing it up the value chain. I don't know that those are going to be necessary. So in the future, I'm going, man, I imagine someone sitting at their desk, either looking or having someone hand them a very, very novel problem that they cannot solve, them actually somehow fulfilling it. They become like the training, whether they're writing training code, software, somehow building a data set to answer how you answer that question, that problem specifically, and then tagging it somehow, putting it, say, into the blockchain or something else where they can take credit for it over time and build some sort of a royalty so that when someone accesses and solves that problem, they get 2 cents or something like that. And that is effectively, in the future, a bunch of people working remotely, building and working on novel problems and trying to build a portfolio where their code, their training data, their content will be referenced and then perpetuated, and they'll be able to get to pay. Again, solve the newest problem. New people need to work on new problems that didn't exist before. If you're in it now, solve the corest base problem that you possibly can with the most references. And again, continue to do it as you get older. And that's how you would actually build your income and your wealth over time.
So I think there are people potentially listening to this, drinking their coffee and just like about probably scared that you might be right, because what you're describing is a completely different world of work.
Yeah.
And I think we
Yeah.
both agree that most people don't realize that this new world is here. It's in nascent stages, but within the next year to, I don't know, 5 years from now, the way that people work and the number of jobs will be completely different. And we are woefully unprepared as a society, as a country, and as a world for this AI tsunami that is about to hit. So it's, starting, as I mentioned this to you earlier, it's starting to hit, some of the smaller villages, but it's making its way, and we haven't gotten the dramatic effect of it yet, but it is coming. And I think if we look in pockets, we can see where it's already making a dramatic difference. Hence the text message you got from our mutual associate, who sounds like he's a little bit scared. I'm assuming it's a he, on, hey,
Mm-hmm.
how do I prepare for this? Because my guess is he's not asking you about World War III, or, I mean, sure, there's a lot to be concerned about with the economy, et cetera, but my guess is he is reading more and more about AI and is just wondering, what do I do? What do I do? And I'm assuming this is someone who probably has more than a decent job, probably a leadership position, makes a really good living, and
Yes. Yes.
understands that the
Uh-huh.
rug is about to be pulled out from under him. So, what do you do? And as a non-technical person, so as like the marketing person on the Wrench side of things, my perspective is probably a little bit different. And when I think about how we're going to work in the future, I think, well, more than ever, I believe soft skills are going to be critical, because you might be working with less people, you might have a flatter organization, but more than likely, you're still going to have to play well with other people. So you're still going to need to be, hopefully, a kind person. You're still going to have the ability to manage other people if that's a position you want, a leadership position. And you still need to be able to problem solve.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the AI tools that we're using now and are only going to evolve are going to help with collecting data and making better decisions. But that doesn't absolve us of some of the fundamental things that we're doing now, which is, there's a team of people at Wrench. We need to make sure they're okay. We need to make sure they're being productive, but we
Mm-hmm.
also want their ideas. And we don't want to put ourselves in a bubble and not think about other opinions and perspectives that could make the business better. So, this is where I think soft skills are still going to be really, really critical. And we shouldn't poo-poo that idea. I mean, as someone who, maybe there have been times where my strong streak of empathy has not worked in my favor, but I do believe it's been an advantage. And I think it will continue to be one as we navigate, these waters of uncertainty and ambiguity when it comes to AI. So you can envision the way that we might work in the future, or one way, right? You
Mm-hmm.
solve a problem, it's captured in the blockchain, you get credit for the rest of your life, and potentially you make a salary from that. And I'm coming from it, don't disagree with any of that, but I also think we're still going to have to deal with people. And we're still going to have to help people adjust to this new world. And ideally, we are adjusting in a healthy fashion ourselves, right? Whether that requires, I don't know, meditation or a run or whatever is needed in order to keep your head on straight and keep breathing.
Let me play devil's advocate. Have you had the Turing moment yet where you've worked with Claude or ChatGPT and actually gotten into a conversation and found yourself not wanting to end it, or not realizing that it had just gone an extra 2 minutes that you did not intend it to go?
Yeah, this has happened after midnight where I'm thinking, I'm not doom scrolling on TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
I am having a conversation with Claude and I don't want to stop. So, yes.
You found some sort of solace or help from an AI because of its empathy already.
What I appreciated was not so much this idea that it was being empathetic, but that it
Uh-huh.
was solely focused on the inputs that I had provided.
Uh-huh.
And the output that I was getting to my questions or for my questions was logical and
Mm-hmm.
helpful.
Mm-hmm. It helped you
And
think through the problem. It wasn't necessarily the empathy, it was the structure.
it was the structure, but it was easy to understand. It was easy to follow up with questions. And I found myself kind of pushing it a little bit to give me more. I mean, it was
Mm-hmm.
really delightful.
One of the spooky things, like, so I've found a couple studies that have identified that people actually prefer AI generated content until they realize it's generated by AI.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning they do find it empathetic. Well, maybe not empathetic. They do find it desirable.
It's personal.
It
You know,
is.
it takes your inputs and it
It is.
personalizes, and you can actually, with follow-up prompts, get it to personalize even more. So it's like
Yes,
your AI companion, agent, whatever you want to call it, and it's answering just your questions.
it is.
And it makes you feel like I actually have this sort of oracle that I have in my hands, and it is giving me answers that I may actually ingest and act upon because they are logical and I hadn't thought of what it provided me until now.
Agreed. So you remember, you obviously know, people listening, MCPs, right? Model context protocols, right? I fear so for those that don't know, these are kind of like an API. Your AI agents, they have access to kind of a toolkit. That toolkit can be, hey, you can send an email, you can search the web, you can generate an image. It's kind of like taking, it's like kind of taking your Android robot and starting to bolt on sensors and appendages and arms and legs and whatever, and giving eyeballs. Like, I literally had one of our devs a little while ago, hey, I gave our AI eyes today. Was one of the It was Willem, like a month or two ago. But model context protocols are basically a standard language for those AI agents, right? They act like an API, which means they allow agents to interact with other agents and other services as an agent would. Basically, hey, I've set up a very specific language. This is interpretable and usable by AI agents. And I think one of the major things that those are going to surface in the very, very near future is not just the ability to grab and for your agents to be able to use a specific website, but we're getting closer and closer, and we're working on this. But having that AI agent that is yours, very specifically a Gabi agent who knows Gabi, Gabriella, right? Who interacts and understands and rephrases and presents information specifically back to Gabi, largely mirroring her personality because Gabi
Mm-hmm.
already understands it. Model context protocols, it's a concept that most people haven't even heard of in the real world yet. But I think what will happen with that is that it will become a buffer. you will be encapsulated and surrounded and insulated from everybody else because you're going to have a Gabi agent that loves you and treats you perfectly as the individual that you are. And she, or whoever, will go out and actually do all your beckoning and calling and everything else for you. The future will be, all right, I need you to go and accomplish this workflow task. Go and find me a new application for parking in San Francisco. Instead of you actually searching for it, your agent will take that request. They will use all those MCP protocols to search all of the Play Store, the Android store. It will have a conversation with all of the existing agents on those, have another conversation. Well, do you work in this zip code, that zip code? All right, cool. What else do you have? Are you paid free? Do you have a premium, freemium, whatever type of business model? Knowing your preferences. And it will then come back to you and present you, I found 50, but here are the 3 that I think are really for you. I think the world and those people are going to be potentially encapsulated, but that's think how cushy that is. That is, I mean, I do the same thing. I've got my little Prof D little agent, and before this call, multiple times a day, I find myself going a little bit more and more often to that guy going, hey, help me brainstorm this concept or whatever else. I've put in my preferences. He now responds using he cusses at me regularly. I love it. And I find myself becoming more and more dependent on it, more and more interested by it. He's insulating me from the web, from research, from Google, from everything else, and going, I know how Dan prefers to give and receive information. So I'm going, I almost wonder if we're going to be rolling around in their own little hamster ball. And each of those people is potentially interacting in buffereds. You know this, but like I literally have like my stoic ghostwriter prompt on Prof D, where I go, I'm going to tell you, Prof D, what I really think. And I want you to actually rephrase and represent that information for the glowing public, where I can go, cool, here's the non-emotional state and version of how we can use the same information, but let's cut out all the other swearing and everything else. Let's make it productive. I find that very, very satisfying and useful. I can go, yeah, I can just say what I actually think, but I know I'd never say. It's like writing that email that you never actually send to the person. This one, they actually magically go through the translator so that it can be sent and be productive in the process.
And it doesn't take much time. You can do it super fast. Or you can take your time with it if you're brainstorming or you're feeding it inputs to give you some ideas about a business plan. Or, I mean, I think I even had it check a contract for my mom once. I stripped out all of the personal data and I got a summary because I didn't want to read it with legalese. So it gave me the plain, simple version of the contract. And so that was incredibly helpful. What was supposed to take me an hour or two took me much less than that.
If you're a lawyer, I'm sorry, but I think lawyers are probably the first to go. If you are a lawyer and you're listening, I apologize, but your job is more public. You have all of the court records and everything else that are publicly available, searchable. Largely a big part of the job is finding precedent and presenting that as, well, here's other decisions that have been made like this, and knowing how to read into the nuance. AI absolutely knows how to do that. And basically, as soon as we really solve kind of the sourcing problem, meaning, hey, you can't hallucinate the source of where you found this information, once that really gets under control, and that's a very solvable problem, I think accountants and lawyers are potentially the firstest to go. You bring up another really good one, though. I mean, you and I used to work on wealth advising, right? We were working a lot in equities back in the day, digital marketing for equity transactions. They had robo-advisors show up. To your point, they took away all of the hard stuff. They took away all of the buying and trading. No one does manual stock trading anymore. They all buy index funds. And then they basically kept the front of the office, the Rolodex, and said, hey, I want you to just make sure that you don't lose us the business, but we'll take over all the trading. So we largely just need to make sure that you are that face. I mean, I think I hear the same thing about banks. Banks are still opening new branches because people demand some sort of face-to-face interaction still.
Well, so this is where I go back to the soft skills part. People still need people. So if I can get done with my task for the day faster so that I can go to my local ballers game and have fun at a baseball game, I'm going to do that. If it means that I don't have to work until, 7 because I'm getting stuff done faster and it's good
Mm-hmm.
quality, then
Yeah.
suddenly I can go to that baseball game.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Or I
Yeah.
can like force my nephews to hang out with me in the backyard. I really do hope that there's a lot less burnout
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to just grinding. The whole concept of grinding is a whole nother talk show, right? I think it's stupid. But I hope that there is a lot less burnout in the future for people because they can use tools that make things more efficient. They can focus on the stuff that the AI won't be able to. You know, AI right now cannot play a baseball game.
No, it cannot. Entertainment is going to be an interesting one to see how that can fatigue it. I know they're trying to build video games and stuff right now, right? Personalized video games. But
Okay, so I'm curious, going back to our mutual associate and the
yes.
existential question and dread
Uh-huh.
that you encountered this morning in that text message, how did you respond or have you not responded yet?
I did respond.
What did you say?
I went with the end of the world Tehran/Israel thing. I gave him,
Oh boy.
hopefully, I gave him a
Let's
budget.
break that down. Continue.
Maybe it's relevant. One of my first recommendations was make it as fun as you possibly can. I think, and I like doing this, my kid and my preparation, like I've got Sully over there, my little 8-year-old. And people are going like, well, cool, like you're into AI. What's your kid going to do? And I go, oof, I'm making sure he knows how to build things with his hands. I play chess with him because I want him to know what it's like to get his mental ass kicked regularly. I put him into MMA because I wanted him to know what it was like to get his ass physically kicked and hop back up. Both chess and MMA have that phenomenon. Where I go, it's a mental single person sport where you get wasted and then you hop back up and you do it again. So one of the first things I want to get him into things that force him and train him to be resilient. The other thing that I put him into and had him do is not just Legos, but like actually building functional and mechanical engineering models, right? Going, I need him to know how to solve problems. And even right now, as an 8-year-old, I don't care what it is, IKEA or whatever else, I can throw any box of parts on the floor and he can assemble and put them together, and as well as any adult.
So, do you monitor his screen time?
Not as much as we should, but actually, like, we have been turning it off just because we go, the more they get, the worse they are. But they absolutely, one of our same friends, in fact the same one that did call today or whatever, texted today, doesn't let his kids have any. Like, I think it's something like an hour a week, something like that. And
Oh
I
my gosh. I totally know who this is now.
Yep. So, and when I went and hung out, as much as I respected it, I actually thought it was a bad idea. I know that you guys are totally quote unquote well adjusted and things like that, but you're so also divorced from the reality of the world that you're walking into that I don't know that you'll be able to function without it. And I do potentially think that was when they texted part of the problem. I went, this is a person that has very consciously done a disconnect thing with the family. And I went, you need to let them watch TV. They need to know the world that is out there, what's coming, and they need to know how to operate. And I mean, I can't stress enough. I've been bugging Alyssa to see if we could get him into a coding camp, not necessarily because he needs to know how to code. I don't know that that's a good skill. I do think that understanding object oriented programming, it's kind of like the
Mhm.
formulaic understanding of software. I think of the formula bar in Excel. I need to know how those functions work. I do think people need to understand that, and they're in big trouble if they don't. So, in terms of preparing him for that, I wanted him to be able to be, one, flexible and resilient and know how to actually solve those problems or figure his way through, the manual, so to speak, with a quick set of instructions. In terms of what he's going to do, I don't know. Dude, the longest running, the safest people I know are in construction and plumbers and welders and things like that. Articulate, and I mean like modal, articulating, arm based, moving type of jobs that combine solving a problem and building something that can't be formally assembled 0 to 1.
So, I think we might want to do a separate podcast on what are the the little ones going to be doing potentially down the road. I think we don't know. I don't think anybody knows. I think
Yeah.
that there there will be jobs. They will
Mhm.
have careers. They just don't totally exist yet. Um, but going back to what you are doing for Sully in terms of helping him be a problem solver
Mm-hmm.
and someone who can figure things out, someone who can work with his hands, someone who's
Mm-hmm.
developing critical thinking skills. I don't think those are bad suggestions for adults. So
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you want to be highly competent at your job as it evolves and it integrates AI, well, there are some other things that you can do to balance out what's happening. So, are you meditating? Are you going for walks? Are you figuring out how to ground yourself when things get really crazy? Are you figuring out how to lower your cortisol level in a healthy way so that you don't lose your mind? Because you won't hold on to your job if you can't be somewhat grounded and have a level head.
Counterpoint. Well, not counterpoint. Extrapolate on that thought. I heard someone with kind of an interesting take the other day. What if we're at like end game capitalism? And if you read Karl Marx's original Communist Manifesto, one of his premises, you break out those communes. And if you actually, so the idea of you distribute resources, you break people into communes, one of his hypotheses was that if you do that and people are basically just focused kind of on subsistence and they're on small enough economies that you're kind of engaging in bartering level trading. Someone manages the sheep, the wool, whatever. There's another person that manages the chickens. And if you're in a small enough distributed community, it only takes 2 or 3 hours of actual work per day. And for that reason, the arts will ultimately thrive because yes, you have to do some work, some disagreeable work, but you're going to actually have a ton of free time on your hands. And I almost wonder that like peak capitalism is getting to the point where we actually have these tools, software, whatever else, that is so effective that there's no way for a new human to catch up and become effective. You have to give them universal basic income. They
Mm.
ultimately, yes, get semi or quasi supported by the state, but they walk into this free time where it's like, hey, you have 2 or 3 hours of some sort of obligation per day, but the rest of your day is free and you're free to go work on art, crafts, or other things. Again, AI can't touch a paint. Well, it can do digital art, but it'll have a hard time doing a painting. And that's ultimately how AI almost comes full circle and ends up in the same spot accidentally. Like, isn't that kind of part of that? The premise being, dude, ultimate late stage capitalism is hopefully actually a bit of a utopia where everyone has carpet, everyone has indoor plumbing, everyone has universal Wi-Fi, and oh, also by the way, everyone has free time because it's ultimately the most precious resource, right?
Well, you can keep your carpet because I have allergies. So I don't have any. But I think what you're describing is possible. I just
Mhm.
don't know how possible it's going to be in our lifetimes. I think that we
Really? Our
are,
lifetimes? I almost wonder about 5, 10 years out. I think a ton of people are unemployed in 5 years.
that seems pretty aggressive.
Mm.
I don't totally know if I buy into it in the next 5 to 10 years. I do think there will be a lot of people who will fall behind for
Oh
sure.
yeah.
And there's
Hmm.
a cascade of consequences that we will experience if politicians and governments don't wake up and
Hmm.
start regulating
Sure.
and thinking of creative ways that these businesses that are making billions and billions of dollars, um, figuring out how they can potentially um, add to the safety net that we're going to have for people.
Hmm.
And, Scott Galloway says often that part of your responsibility as someone who's done well is to take care of the people who aren't doing well.
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
hope that that is a resounding message that more people absorb and act upon, because we certainly need a lot more of that thinking. And it's really bonkers to me that people are still sleeping on how we can get a better handle on regulating AI in business so that we don't have this crazy rise in unemployment. So, that said, there are certainly areas where we need more people. Like, we could probably use more plumbers. We could probably use more people who apprentices for different types of jobs that where we don't have enough people.
Hmm.
So I think what could potentially happen a lot faster than just working maybe 2 to 3 hours a day and living some sort of utopian setting is you'll have more options for people when they're younger, that they don't necessarily have to go to college.
Mm-hmm.
There are other things that they can do. Like they can learn to be a plumber. There are going to be jobs that get carved out of this AI revolution. So I think that Americans secretly or not so secretly love to work, and you don't just eradicate that kind of culture. So
I
I
hope
don't
so.
think it's going to be, I don't think you're just going to have millions and millions of Americans stop working. I think there's reason to believe that there will be jobs that form, even if they're transitory, as we deal with this like massive technological upheaval.
How long do you think your lifespan, shelf span is in terms of your professional lifespan? Like of what you're doing today, how much of it was the same work you were doing or the equivalent of from 5-ish years ago?
So I definitely think I was doing more manual things,
Uh-huh.
but I was also working at a startup and wearing a lot of different hats. And I kind of do
Mm-hmm.
that now. It's just maybe the work is a little bit higher stakes.
Yeah.
So I can see in the future being a little old lady who doesn't work as much, but if I still have a well functioning active brain, I could see still contributing in some form or fashion because I have a bank of knowledge that I can apply even if the function changes.
Yeah.
So I don't know, even if I were in a position to retire, I don't know if I would want to.
Mm-hmm.
I'm too curious and I'm too interested in how things work, and I have too many opinions to just stop and, I don't know, go play shuffleboard. So I think we might also see change in how people retire. You know, a lot less people have pensions now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, a lot more people are scrambling to figure out how they're going to save for a cushion down the road when maybe they want to work less, or from a health perspective, they can't work as much. So um, I don't know. I don't have all the answers, but I also have reason to feel very optimistic because, as crazy as the news is right now and as crazy the world is, if you look hard enough, you're going to find the headlines about new technologies that are saving lives, you
Oh
know,
yeah.
new cancer
Oh yeah, yeah,
treatments,
yeah. Oh yeah.
CRISPR technology
Uh-huh.
that is making a difference. So
Yeah.
we're going to start to see a lot more of those headlines. We just want to make sure that we can prevent people from getting left behind, if at all possible,
Yeah.
because that leads to a whole set of other circumstances that don't make for a well functioning society.
Sure. I just realized like I spend somewhere between 25 and 50% of my day now training AI to do my job. And not necessarily as like do my job, but like literally as my own. You guys have seen it, Dan bot. I've actually had good enough reviews, so I've started creating my own customer service, sales support, partner support, channel support, bills proposals, does estimates, packages, deals, product requirements, product descriptions. I spend a decent
You
amount
know
of my
what's
time.
funny?
Mm-hmm.
Here's what's funny. Do you want to tell people why sometimes I'm referred to as the GF or doing the GF?
The Gabi filter.
Uh-huh.
So I'm and always have been an abhorrent and horrible, terrible, terrible, terrible writer. I could never do written grammar ever. And I've always been relatively articulate. I get compliments on that quite a bit. The Gabi filter was almost always, anytime I had to put pen to paper, so to speak, it needed to go through the GF, the Gabi filter. So I would go, hey, Gabi, here's what I'm saying, but you know what I mean. I need your help. And before this can see the light of day, it had to go through the GF. And so anytime I would take even a paragraph and paste it and just go, hey, GF, please, because it was typos, grammatical errors. I mean, I figured out how to do you apostrophe RE or whatever. That was like a day ago.
So
I am.
you
I'm
don't need
still so bad at
you
it.
don't need the Gabi filter anymore.
No, I have not hit you up for a Gabi filter in
I know.
3 years. I don't know how long. It's been a while. I get like, hey, help me edit this as a piece, but it is rare now that I'm going, hey, just a GF. It's very rare now.
I'll have weaknesses.
Yep.
And the good news is that our personalized, highly trained AI agent can help us with that, right? Can
Oh yeah.
help to make up
Mitigate
for
those
those.
weaknesses.
So you
Mhm.
spend a lot of your time training AI, and in the work that I do, because I'm not 100% on Wrench, I look at stuff and think, why aren't people using AI more?
Oh yeah.
So you're on the front lines, and then I'm over here using it when it's appropriate, but also seeing very clearly that even technology companies don't know necessarily how to do it well,
Mhm.
and are still doing things that can easily be done with even like a chat GPT, but aren't.
We're making a company level kind of bet on this premise, by the way. Like a lot of the architecture and the frameworks for the agents that we build on that platform, on Wrench platform, is about how do you transfer knowledge into a personal agent and then make that available to your organization. Make a private agent, a personal agent, make that into an org agent, and then make that org agent into a public agent with all the governance and all the fun stuff that comes with that at those different tiers. So you can get something that you can kind of build in private, but then potentially, and again, I do think this is what people, it's not going to be gig economy. It's going to be, I want you to go and build your role as an agent or whatever else, train it for me, and then I'll come back to you when I need you, but I need to use it in the meantime. I need the like go build me a Gabi filter agent and then we'll ping it regularly. You'll be working on other things, bigger things, novel problem things. But again, the Gabi filter problem is a solved problem. Let's move on to
Totally.
other bigger, better things. In a way, a very, very good thing. Also an exhausting thing because it is holy shit tiring to solve novel problems like that. It burns calories. It may not be a physical exertion thing, but man, it does it. I don't want to say it
It's
gets
a,
old, but
it's a brain exertion thing, which is
yeah.
still greatly fatiguing. So,
Oh,
where do you think Wrench is going to be a year from now?
all honesty, I don't know. I mean, a big part of the problem is that I know that a ton of other companies, we've done stuff and I think we've laid down IP and we've banked on IP. Most people don't know this, but like in AI, the value is not in the software. The value is in the intellectual property that comes with proprietary data. We have been focused on proprietary data and we've been developing and measuring and curating proprietary data. We assemble things. I'll pull in open source tools and stuff like that. We have proprietary AI. We have measurable KPIs. We got two patents, one filed, one granted, and another one in the works that I do think actually are valuable. I think we have some insulation there. That being said, like if you go look at what is happening in the news right now, OpenAI is being sued left, right, and center for basically copyright infringement, and they just got a court order that they can't actually delete any of their posts and AI agents. Like we need to actually notify our customers, like, hey, we're on an enterprise plan there, which means everything is protected. But oh, by the way, the courts have now said because before ChatGPT and OpenAI would take in all of the work from everybody. And I guarantee they were treating it like their own proprietary data. Now they're not even deleting it because people were accusing them of deleting it to hide the paper trail and the evidence that they were stealing ideas and they were violating copyrights and other things. I think we're more insulated than most to say, like, hey, we have some protections there that we've built something that's very unique. And whether you bolt it into ChatGPT or Anthropic or whatever else, it can be leveraged to build something that is unique and is a hard problem to solve. We've already kind of laid down the hey, we solved a novel problem. And we deliberately invested in personalization for that reason. I get calls right now for K through 12 education for entrepreneurs. I get university admissions. I get lead scoring. I get all of that stuff, and it's applicable to all of them. Regularly, even if you're not even doing personalized communication, is actually pretty relevant because, again, people are gravitated towards people like them. They
Mhm.
interact with they want to hear messages to and from people like them. All of that stuff, it comes in very handy. But that being said, there's the possibility that we could theoretically just be squashed by some behemoth AI. Simultaneously, I go, I think my job is to make sure that we're faster than everybody else running from that bear that is eating the world. And I do think right now we're on the right side of fast. I wish I knew exactly what even 5 years looks like, though, right? Meta just basically came out and said, we're going to replace your entire marketing team by 2027, late 2026. Just give us your budget and we'll take care of all your marketing. Now, granted, having thought about that problem for 8 years, I think that's kind of doable. I just wouldn't trust Facebook with all of my money to do it.
Well,
Meta, but
so I think definitely there's a trust issue there, but also that's almost like saying, yeah, I can do 50 push-ups. Sure, no problem. I can do 50 push-ups. Yeah, it's one thing to say it, it's another thing to do it. So I think right now there are a
mm-hmm,
lot of people making hyperbolic claims,
sure.
and some of them may come to fruition, but I think a lot of them won't. Because as a professional problem solver, sometimes it looks like there's a really easy solution. You just got to execute.
Sure.
But unexpected obstacles always arise.
Yeah.
And so it's one thing to put forth this vision, hey, we're going to take over your marketing team, we're going to save you a lot of money. The execution slash implementation piece of that rarely ever goes as the plan
Yeah.
states in a Word document. So this is
Yeah.
why I am a lot hesitant to believe some of those claims.
That's fine. So fair. I mean, the big problem is that you only have to be better than average. Like a big part of when people go like, hey, can it replace copywriting? And I go, will it replace the best of the best? No. But can it replace the bottom half, the average and below average people? Uh-huh. Could I see it replacing the average and the below average brand managers? Yep. Could I see it replacing the average and the below average logo designers? Yep. Could I see it replacing the average and the below average campaign managers? Yep. I think a big part of the trick there is that if they can replace that half, they can do so very inexpensively. To your point, there is going to be the above average, and I think they will be working themselves into like niches and hyper niches where you will probably have a handful of people at very small companies. I think probably the first like multi-billion, if not trillion-dollar company may exist now, and it's possible that it's only going to have a dozen employees in it because you'll be able to scale so many of those jobs. And if you have one really smart dev, one really smart solutions architect, one really smart marketing person, you can actually automate the organization underneath them so they can do all of those jobs. And they need to be specialists that can really think outside the box. But I think you're going to see people get kind of worked into niches where it's harder and more difficult for them to make sweeping generalizations like, hey, I can replace all your marketing. It's like, probably do better than half of your below average teams. Yeah, I think you probably could.
You might be terrifying right now. Well, so that's a really interesting vision of the future.
Uh-huh.
It is possible. So you can be a company that is totally flat. You've got one great solutions architect, one great dev, one great marketing person, one great whatever it is that you need.
Yeah.
But are you still providing an offering to the market in your industry that stands head and shoulders above the rest of your competitors? So, what I'm saying is, from a structural perspective as a business, you
Uh-huh.
can automate, you can be lean, you can be mean, but is that actually allowing you to offer the best product possible? So, this is where you kind of have those two sides of the coin. Like, yes, you can do it as a business. We kind of have at Wrench, actually.
Mm-hmm.
We're very lean and very, oh, I don't know about mean. But then the thing that we still struggle with is we know we have really cool technology. We know it's legit AF,
Mm-hmm.
but we're still talking to people who are, well, yeah, let me wait and see. Or yeah, I don't totally get it. And we get it, but we're in that bubble over here. We
Mm-hmm.
understand it, makes total sense to us. We understand how it can integrate and drive results. But then we've got people over here who aren't buying in the way I think they should be. And so that's still, we have AI at our disposal to help us. But for some people, it's an easy conversation. They want to start a pilot, let's go. And then for others, it's definitely a longer sales cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do you say to that?
Heartedly agree. I mean, look, the joke around here is we started the company at least 5 years too soon, which wholeheartedly true. Again, like we thought we would be
I
deploying
think
AI
six
in
years.
27. Yeah.
6 years too
Fair enough.
soon.
And there is no reward for being early, right? That being said, I do think we set up a lot of the insulative properties that actually made and gave us a little bit of a head start on what we have and did deploy in terms of architecture is very hard to it's not, you can't recreate it on a whim. It is hard to build. It takes time, certifications and everything else that are very difficult to do that make us again faster than most of the other people running from the bear. And I will also say that the biggest push I get, because usually the people that interact with the platform play with it and stuff like that, they're like, hey, this is cool. The hardest part is the buying committee at those, at least B2B organizations. It's getting the buy-in from the people that didn't see it, won't play with it, are only the financier or whatever else, where it's oftentimes the people that we have to convince people that we never even meet or talk to on the phone. That is hard. And that change management has been ridiculously difficult for years because you had to convince people not only that didn't want to buy it, but never wanted to pay anyone for it. Right. And they're now being forced into, and at least I do hear now, I don't know about this whole AI thing. I don't hear that anymore. They know it's coming. They absolutely know it's coming. Most of them is, how am I going to do it? And there is much more of an art, and a lot of what I worry about is how do we actually give them not just the resources to convince them. I have to give them the resources for 15 different people who, that one cares about the marketing angle, that one cares about the HR angle. We've had our brand champions at organizations reported to HR because their team said they're going to take our jobs. If they deploy that AI, we won't have jobs. I never thought that would happen, right? Again, it's like, wait, you could get turned into HR for doing your job and hiring a vendor? Like, I'd never, ever, ever, that was mind blowing to me for people listening. That happened to one of our clients. But that stuff and the pushback from other related teams that are hoping that it's not happening. And unfortunately, they're probably going to be the ones that are the most replaceable the soonest because of that, right? It's like, it's cliche, but AI won't take your job. Someone using it will, right? That to me is a no brainer. It's just a matter of which one. It is absolutely a matter of which one. That scares me. Sorry if I'm scaring everybody on this. I've been the person that was like poo-pooing its ability to create stuff because I'm going, look, it's trained on historical data. It's not going to be creative. It's pretty creative. It does a great job of removing the drudgery from most of the jobs. Like our stuff does an hour and 15 minutes worth of research per person in about 9 seconds, less in many cases. It does take a ton of the drudgery out. You've used it and I've used it to make presentations in a fraction. I mean, some of that
Oh,
stuff would have taken us weeks, if not a month before. We did them in hours. I mean, a bunch of that stuff, it really becomes, okay, cool. Well, now how many can you create? We did white papers in the last week or so, just going boom, boom, sourced,
it,
researched, brainstormed, edited, tuned, and basically into like revision 5 in a matter of an hour. It's like, that's a different world. So for me, is the acceleration of new content and product is now the measure of the game. How quick can you do it? How good can it be? How quickly can you do it? And how
so let me ask
novel can
you
you make
this.
it? Yeah.
Let me ask you a fun question. If you had like a couple more hours in your day where you did not have to be at your desk running Wrench, what would
Mm-hmm.
you do?
Oh shit. I see people like doing landscaping and lawn mowing and stuff like that. And I go like, oh yeah, that guy gets to work outside. um, I do love my job. I like the work is cool. Like we work on some cool cutting edge stuff. I get to see stuff before other people see it. We get to see where a lot of the proverbial bodies are buried on like, hey, does that tech actually work or how does it work? That stuff's really interesting to me. So I really do like this. And I do wake up going, hey, let's go see and check that stuff out. Man, there's a ton of, but no shit. When I don't work and I'm done at the end of the day, the mental marathon can have me shot and doing very mindless,
Oh
just
yeah.
like, yeah, take a walk so my brain can just pause. I love taking instructions from people. Like if I just go, hey, go build a model. Step 1, 2, 3, glue this to that. I love it. Building a car with my dad has instructions. I absolutely go, hey, I get to pick the parts and stuff like that, but they tell me what gets bolted to what else. I love taking orders.
So I find if Jason asks me, okay, yeah, let's go to dinner. Where do you want to go? I almost like get
There's
don't make
decision
me
fatigue.
make another decision.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I'll do a Hello Fresh meal.
Yeah.
If
Yeah. Yeah.
ingredients
Yeah.
are in the bag, I follow the instructions, bam, dinner.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the day, I can't read a book, I'll fall asleep. I'm just like a little too wired. So yeah, walks, lifting
Yeah.
weights. It's great to have dogs because they need attention and they need to be
Uh-huh.
walked too.
Yeah.
So honestly, if I had a couple more hours in my day, don't totally know what I would do. It'd be great to have that time, but I don't know because
Hobby collector.
I'm so into work mode. But it would be really nice one day to not sit so much.
That's what they say. Sitting is the new smoking. Sitting is the
Yeah,
new
yeah.
smoking. Mm-hmm. Remember when I was fit? It was a long time ago now, but
I'm still holding on to my workouts. I
good
don't
girl.
go to a gym anymore because I don't have time. So I have my own setup in the hallway.
Nice.
And sometimes it's like at 9 o'clock at night. And I don't do it as often, but I'm still trying to do it because it gets me out of my head.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really important.
Awesome. You're delightful, Gabi. You're always fun. I appreciate you. I miss the Gabi filter, but I'm glad that we still get to talk just to nod around Gabi filter stuff. So
Never thought I'd be glad the Gabi filter got replaced, but hey, I probably helped train the Gabi filter bot anyway. So
you did. You did. Just for anyone else, where can they find you, by the way, before I forget to ask?
I am sort of under the cover of night. I don't really go to LinkedIn too much. It's my least favorite platform, but I can be found on LinkedIn.
You
But
go
under
into
my
a mirror, you
professional
go into a
name,
dark room, go to the mirror and say, Gabi Barragan, Gabi Barragan, Gabi Barragan, and you'll appear behind them. Yes.
that's right. So watch out. I'm no longer on X Twitter. I'm a lurker, really. TikTok
Uh-huh.
is my new favorite platform
Really?
because I'm disappointed with mainstream media, and I think there's some really, really fantastic journalists on
Big.
TikTok that are doing the best work right now. I'm a lurker. I'm a lurker, but I'm also observing and taking things in. And I think in the future, I'll be a little bit more happy to walk into the spotlight, but that's not typically where you'll find me. So at this moment in time, I'm observing, working, and lurking. And you can find me on LinkedIn under my professional name, Gabriella Barragan.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you, Gabi. I appreciate you. I'll talk to you again soon.